Shotgun with Charlie.
Riding shotgun refers to the practice of sitting next to the driver in a moving vehicle. The term riding shotgun came around after the time of the stagecoach, when somebody used to sit next to the driver holding a shotgun, in case they ran into bandits. My name is Charlie Cook, and I drive a lot. I like to talk to people while I'm driving, so I interview people in my car while I'm driving. Welcome to Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. I am back in the Windy City in Chicago, and I am with someone whose name, I don't know if you'll know his name, I don't know if you'll recognize his face, but I know that you will know his story. It is Dan Easterday. Dan, thanks for being on.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me today.
Dan Easterday is the gentleman from Deerfield, Illinois that fought, you fought the law and the law didn't win, right?
Yeah. Local, my village of Deerfield wanted to ban assault weapons and all kinds of magical, mystical things that they didn't understand. And with the help of Illinois State Rifle Association and Second Amendment Foundation, we sued. And as of current, we have won. Still in appeals, but we think we have a pretty good success, or pretty good chance for success here.
Cool. All right, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about you. We're going to talk about all sorts of cool stuff. We just grabbed a coffee, and the coffee conversation would have been good to have as well. Let's go, shall we?
That was some getting to know you stuff.
Getting to know you, getting to know all about you.
As a band teacher is going to do, you're going to default to Sound of Music.
Oh, I know. Yes.
We are not doing carpool karaoke today.
We're not doing carpool karaoke.
Nobody wants to hear me sing.
And look at this. Somebody just got into an accident. That's great. You might be able to use your kit.
Your med kit stuff, yeah.
Right.
No. They're both walking. They're good.
Both walking. That'll be fine.
Screw them.
All right. Not that we don't care about people.
Not that we don't care about people.
But they're fine.
But they're fine.
All right. Tell us about yourself, Dan. How did you get into, before we get into all the Deerfield stuff, what's your background? How did you get into gun stuff? Have you been a gun guy all the time? Did you serve time in the military? What got you before you got to Deerfield?
I grew up in a family, we had guns. My mom's brother was a fairly well-renowned shotgun smith, had his own business. He did high-end engraving for trap and skeet guns and other stuff. So my mom and dad's families were both close, so we knew everybody, and so we just had guns growing up. My folks were from rural Ohio before we moved out here to Illinois, and guns were a thing. So I learned how to shoot at a fairly early age, and just got interested in it, especially towards the end of my teenage years, into my 20s. No military service. I've got a bad ankle and couldn't pass pension boards and medical exams. So instead, I did some private security stuff and a little bit of contracting here and there. And
wow, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, nothing. It was all boring.
Okay.
Absolutely boring. But and then in the mid 2000s, got really heavy into training in firearms towards about 2007, 2008. I was living in Indiana, operations manager for a local security company in northeast Indiana, and started talking to some police officers, started talking to some friends, and realized that nobody is as good as they think they are, and that we need to get better. And from there, really started going out and taking classes, learning from people, and just trying to get better. And now I do part-time firearms instruction. I teach beginners pistol and rifle.
Cool.
Get people to a point where I can send them to somebody that's better than me, to get them, to the point where they can learn. But I'm a big advocate for training and knowing what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's way too much responsibility that comes with firearms for us not to know what we're doing. So.
Completely. I'm an instructor too, and I like being at the top of the funnel. Like I want to get people into it and let them know that we're not all FUDs and we're not all tactical and we're just regular folks.
Yeah.
And get them in and get them up and going. Teach them how to not hurt themselves. Teach them the stuff they need to know in order to apply to get their license and all that sort of stuff. And then when they start to do cool tactical classes and they're hanging upside down from a helicopter, sign me up. I want in on that too. That sounds kick-ass.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people. There was a trend in the industry, and I think we're coming out of it a little bit, where a lot of people were in the military and came out and started teaching firearms. So we got this whole military-based and the whole idea of tactical and all that. And I think we're kind of coming out of that, almost what I would say coming to our senses and saying, there's a lot of things that military and law enforcement do and teach that don't apply to regular everyday civilians or regular everyday people. And that's kind of my focus. I want people to understand that we have a role. We have, we're not the police, we're not the military. There's things that we can learn to help us get better, but we're not necessarily going to employ those techniques or tactics or procedures in real life in a regular dude setting.
I completely agree with that. I've talked to, I didn't get into this. I don't have any military or police background or anything like that. I get into it because I have kids I need to protect. And I assume that this is why a lot of other people get into it, not with no military background, with no interest in being a police officer. And that's what I want to do too. I want to get people into it and say, hey, listen, if you want to protect yourself, here's what you need to do. You need to consider this. You gotta think about all this stuff. You gotta learn how to be safe with all this stuff. Learn how to keep everything locked and secured. And here's the fundamentals of shooting. Here's how you shoot. Yeah. That's what I take, man. I think that's great because that's how we get more people into it. Get everything to grow.
It's how we start getting more people into it for sure. The biggest thing that I've kind of come to the conclusion over the last 5 to 7 years of networking with some fantastic people is, and I've said it, and we'll talk about it coming out of the Deerfield thing, gun rights aren't a political football. Gun rights don't belong exclusively to one group of people. They don't belong exclusively to one mindset of people. So to me, it's incumbent to be as welcoming, open, honest, willing to teach anybody who can demonstrate that they're safe and they're not going to use whatever I teach them for bad things. I've got great friends in the alt lifestyle movement. Aaron Paulette, who runs Pink Pistol and Operation Blazing Sword. I've got a good friend, Erin Smith. She is out in California running for a local political seat. She's big into Second Amendment advocacy, and both Erins are actually trans, which I don't care. Makes no difference to me. Do what you want to do. If you want to come hang out and shoot and you're a good person, you advocate for good stuff,
That's right. The rest of it's none of my business.
The rest of it's none of my business.
Yeah, absolutely.
The inclusive part.
I had Erin Paulette on the show a couple years ago in Dallas.
Oh, dude, she's cool as heck, man. She is one of the funniest freaking people. She and I talk regularly. I'm actually in the process of, and I'm going to plug this, we are going to have a fairly cool raffle fundraiser for Operation Blazing Sword and Pink Pistols coming up within the next couple of months. Some Magpul swag, some trainers that have gotten in and donated classes.
That's awesome.
Filster, Darkstar gear. Big props to Magpul. They donated $1,000 worth of merchandise and material to
That's awesome.
the cause. So keep your eye on that. It's going to be pretty cool.
Very cool.
And check out Pink Pistols and Operation Blazing Sword. There's your plug, Aaron.
Boom! This is a story I love with Aaron. We were in Chicago for Gun Rights Policy Conference in 2018. I was with Aaron and someone else, and we were trying to find out where the room was that we were supposed to be at. Some event was going on. And so we're looking, we're like, well, let's go down this hallway. Maybe it's over here. I see people going over there. And so Aaron says, why don't we stop and ask for directions? Right? And I said, Aaron, Women ask for directions, men don't.
To which I'm absolutely certain her response is, well, I'm a little bit conflicted about that.
Right.
No. Erin's a classy gal, man. I love hanging out with her. But yeah, that's my big thing is, you know, I don't want to use buzzwords like inclusiveness or anything like that, but just, I don't care, man. You know, let's come out, let's shoot, let's have fun. Let's have fun, and let me show people that the gun community, the gun culture, whatever you want to call it, is not what people think it is. It's, I mean, it can be. There's definitely a subsect of
this is
people
great. I love
out
this.
there.
How you doing? You guys wondering what we're up to?
This is the city of Chicago, man. I do not want to get into a titty bar gunfight today. But yeah, there's certainly areas of the gun culture and gun community that play into some of the stereotypes and stuff like that. I don't belong to that, or I'd like to think that I don't. And you know, as we were talking about earlier, getting some coffee, you know, we're in the middle of a PR thing. It's an IO campaign, you know, information and output campaign that we really need to control the message and show people that we are not the wing nuts that everybody thinks we are, and there's no reason to be afraid of people like yourself and me and the people that we associate with in the gun community.
Absolutely. We're just regular folks, man. We just want to take care of ourselves and our kids and live our lives and be left alone. That's what a lot of it comes down to.
Yeah. So yeah.
Cool. So that's a little background.
Yeah.
Let's get into the Deerfield stuff. How did all this stuff happen? Now, it was 2013 when Illinois started to change all their laws, and you guys started to have some sort of a concealed carry permit, so law-abiding background check passing citizens could protect themselves outside of their house.
Yep.
And they said it was going to take 6 months, but it took a little bit longer, right?
Yeah, so in 2013, I was actually living in Highland Park, Illinois. And as, you know, there was a lawsuit that went all the way up to the Supreme Court of the United States, and the Supreme Court basically said, you know, Illinois, you are the last state to not have a carry program, any kind of provision, you know, for carry of firearms outside the house. You have to change that. We're legally mandating that you have to put some kind of program in place. And so they started writing the laws down in Springfield and putting packages together. And one of the things that was slipped in by anti-gun politicians in Illinois was a provision that any home rule community in Illinois would have a certain amount of days after Concealed Carry Act was passed to write their own and put their own gun laws into effect. And after that point in time, the state would have sole authority and jurisdiction to write laws about guns. Preemption is the technical term. And so Highland Park, I got involved in the movement there. Highland Park said, we're going to write an assault weapons ban in Highland Park. We don't believe these need to be, you know, in place. And that was when I was really getting spun up in the local community. And so I got out there, I went to meetings, and I actually got interviewed by the Chicago Tribune. My minor claim to fame before the Deerfield thing was I was one of the few people that were on the front page of the Chicago Tribune above the fold, not being arrested or indicted for anything.
Well, that's good, right?
Yeah, that's good. I was literally the only person that the Tribune could find that was willing to go to a gun range and take pictures or be photographed firing an AR-15. You know, a lot of people wanted to be very secretive about it, or not get their faces out there,
sure,
whatever. And I was like, I don't care. I thought it was going to be this little story, and I go to work, and my brother calls me. He's like, "Hey,
top of the fold.
Yeah, you're on the front page of the Chicago Tribune, Dan. What's going on?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we'll talk about that after I'm off work." But so we lost. Highland Park instituted their assault weapons ban, and for a variety of reasons, including the assault weapons ban, we decided to pick up and move one town over to the west into Deerfield. My kid had a lot to do with it. At that point in time, we wanted to make sure he was in the right school and some stuff. But I also took a look at what happened in Highland Park and said, at that point in time before we moved, I had everything that they didn't like, out of the town with a friend. So I didn't even have the stuff that, that I owned with me in order to maintain compliance with the law. It was stupid.
It's completely stupid.
It's completely stupid. But again, the whole law-abiding citizen thing, which, at some point we have to figure out when we're not going to be law-abiding citizens anymore. But,
right, when the law is stupid.
Yeah, when the law is that overreaching and stupid. I don't think we're at that point yet. But so we moved out of Highland Park, and it was kind of a thing. And everything kind of went to bed. So I actually attended a village meeting in Deerfield at the time, too, because they were considering an assault weapons ban. And what they actually ended up passing was a safe storage and transportation of assault weapons ordinance. And they said, we've got the ability to pass this. We've got the ability to write this. We're not going to ban anything. We don't think it's necessary. And so they wrote this little ordinance that said, if you've got a classification of gun, and everything was, Highland Park modeled theirs off of the Cook County assault weapons ban, so it named a lot of the guns that were in the Cook County ban, and we got a lot of their wording from that.
Were there specific guns or certain features?
Oh yeah, features and guns.
Okay.
Specific, the infamous, Fanchi Spas 12, shotgun that every politician hates that for some reason. Just a fantastically awesome gun to shoot. Stuff like that, Tommy guns, it
is Chicago.
Yeah, it's Chicago, right? If anybody should have a Tommy gun, it should be people in Illinois.
Yeah.
And a lot of that language all goes back to the 94 assault weapons ban.
Right, the pistol grip, collapsible stock, flash,
the classifications and all that stuff, sorry. And, yeah, my bad.
That's all right. I had somebody say, show, and what I ended up doing is I put the poop emoji over their mouth and fart noise. So
I will endeavor to be better.
That.
We had the assault weapons ban, the federal assault weapons ban in '94 that kind of created a lot of this language, and then Cook County ran with it sometime after that, and then Highland Park modeled their language off of Cook County. Deerfield passed this assault weapons safe storage and transportation thing.
Safe storage, let's talk about that for a second. In where I'm from in Massachusetts, safe storage is locked and secured so unauthorized people don't have access to it.
Yep.
Same sort of stuff here?
Same sort of stuff with the Deerfield ordinance.
What about with the rest of the state?
With the rest of the state, to my knowledge, unless there are local laws that come into play, there's no safe-wide storage requirement as of this point in Illinois.
Because what I talk to people, and they say, it's crazy to have a loaded gun in the house. I'm like, yeah, it might be, but in Massachusetts, you can have a loaded, if it's your home defense gun, it's in use when it's defending your home. Mm-hmm. I use air quotes when I say all that stuff. Like, you're not going to have a turkey hunting shotgun loaded because it's a turkey hunting gun. But if it's your carry gun or your defensive gun, you can keep that loaded.
Dude, if that's what I've got as my turkey gun, I'm going to load it up with double-aught buckshot and have a day.
Right.
Deadly force is deadly force no matter what you use. If I have the chance to run somebody over with a car to,
protect yourself.
Chance. Yeah, protect myself. Yes, protect myself.
Protect yourself, that's it.
But no, so there's no storage requirement. Yeah, I'm in agreement. I mean, for defense in the home, to not have if you're about that life, to not have a loaded firearm in your house is silly. I carry a lot of times in my house. I have kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm a big believer in on-body, have it on you,
right?
Type deal.
Some of the folks that, that's fun. Some of the folks in the circles I run with believe in the POGO. POGO is pants on, gun on?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not that religious about it, but whatever.
Right. I mean, it's. I've talked to some people like, oh my God, you carry a gun in your house? I'm like, dude, if you come over to my house and I've already been out, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I'm planning to go out or I've already been going, or I've already gone out,
yes,
I've got a gun on. Otherwise, I've got multiple, rapid access safes all over the place. Because I'm kind of one of those dudes that sets things down and then walks away from them. So I learned early on that I have to have like gun safes so I can just open the safe, set the gun down, close the safe, and then walk away from it.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, there would be a plethora of guns all over the house, and my wife would be like, "What?"
Right.
One of the interesting things that came out of the Highland Park situation was,
do this.
Somehow. So one of the things that people don't know is in Illinois, when you apply for your concealed carry license, the local police chiefs, sheriffs, when you apply, your name basically goes into a database and people can review it. And
wait, like public record stuff?
Not public record. It's only viewable to law enforcement.
Okay.
But a chief of police or designated representative or authority or sheriff can object to the issuance of your concealed carry license and put you into an appeals stage or a review stage. Yes. So if they object for whatever grounds, they don't have to have a solid legal ground. This is where Tom Dart, who was sheriff of Cook County, got in a lot of trouble because he was blanket objecting to every concealed carry permit that was filed in Cook County, regardless of who was filing it. And there was a lawsuit launched about it, and he got smacked over it, and they said stop, and he didn't stop, and they had to come back and say, like, look, dude, we will literally we will put a consent order into place to stop you from doing this if you don't stop.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
That's ridiculous.
So when I applied for my concealed carry license, somebody put an objection in. And
really?
Yep, this was when the governors were switching and stuff. This was probably about 2014, 2015-ish.
Was that Blagojevich? The dude with the big hair?
Yeah, it might have been
right around
when Blagojevich was coming out, or Quinn, or something like that. There was a transition point. The governor appoints the review board for the concealed carry licenses. So when there's an administration change, he has to appoint a new board, and then they get backlogged. So I actually waited 14 months.
What?
Yep.
Dude,
14.
I gotta go to the Martin Luther King quote there with the right delayed is the right denied.
Right, exactly. And at the end of 14 months, I got a nice little letter from the state that said, oh yeah, we checked out the objection, we reviewed your application, everything's good, we'll give you your concealed carry license. And I'm like, yeah, I know, because I'm not a criminal. What happened is I spoke out as a pro-gun person, and I'm pretty sure it was the police chief of Highland Park at the time that put the objection in. And, so I sat there for 14 months without a concealed carry license, which was really interesting. So, yeah.
That's ridiculous. That kind of stuff is completely...
It's an abuse of power.
It really is. It really is.
And people don't understand when I start getting a little passionate about this and talking about restrictions and gun laws and that kind of thing. Parkland School, everything calmed down for a number of years, and then we had the Parkland shooting in 2018. Mm-hmm. And people started talking about gun control again. And the ever-wise and always fabulous Deerfield Board of Trustees and the mayor decided to do what I call national-level virtue signaling and said, we are going to pass an assault weapon ban. We are going to amend the safe storage and transportation ordinance, and we are going to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines and all this stuff within the limits of the village of Deerfield. And so they put forth a legal opinion. They went to some lawyers who, kudos to the lawyers for fleecing the village of Deerfield on the money. And the legal opinion of the village lawyer and the team said, oh yeah, you can do this, no problem. And so they wrote they amended the ordinance, and they started holding. Well, they said they were going to do it, and they started holding meetings, and we brought a lot of people out. Mike Weisman with Illinois State Rifle Association got a grassroots campaign going really well. Mm-hmm. And, we put a lot of people in those meetings. It was very contentious. A lot of the Shannon Watts Moms Demand Action people showed up, talking about how horrible it was, regurgitating the tired talking points of, you can't even hunt with ARs. And I'm like, I go hog hunting with ARs in Texas and Oklahoma and Georgia all the time. Like I murder the poop out of pigs with ARs. And it's conservation too.
There's the hogs are going wild in Texas.
Yeah, dude, that's
why they call it hog wild.
Yeah. They said at the current, right now, to have any meaningful impact on the hog population in Texas, you would have to kill 1,000 hogs a day.
Wow.
Just to keep up with the breeding patterns.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, cool, sign me up, pay me, give me some ammo, I'll go do it.
I've got some friends that go to Texas to go hunting, and I think they go big game hunting, and then they're always like, yeah, we can throw in a couple hogs for free.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of the tired talking points, weapons of war, nobody needs them, and it's on YouTube somewhere. I had a friend clip it out and throw it on YouTube, as well as the whole hearing. I got up and spoke and just said, there's no point to it. We've had precisely one murder in Deerfield in the last 15 years.
What are we afraid about?
Yeah, what are we afraid about? And that came out of a love triangle with an ex-Bears player.
Well, there we go.
Yeah. National Felons League. Thank you, Pat Rogers. Nice. My old mentor loved saying National Felons League. So, in our opinion, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, Deerfield knew what they were going to do. They wanted to do it. They were going to pass it, regardless of what anybody said, which, people talk about subverting the democratic process or the political process all the time. As elected officials, I think it's incumbent on people to actually listen and hear and respond to what people are saying. And okay, cool, yeah, let's go into it and say, well, I've got this idea, I want to pass this piece of legislation, ordinance, whatever. But you have to go into it with an open mind, and I think anymore, politics has devolved to the point where people are just going to do what they want to do. And screw the public.
Yeah.
Or screw the people that they disagree with. And I don't think that serves anybody well. So we went through the process, and towards the end, I was in contact with Illinois State Rifle Association. I talked to my friend Ari Friedman, who was the plaintiff in Friedman versus Highland Park. So Ari had sued Highland Park over the assault weapons ban. That went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court kicked it back and said, hey, there are other cases in the works that are very similar that have prior jurisdiction. We are not going to rule on this. And Highland Park's like, we won. We took them to the Supreme Court and we won. And we're like, no, we didn't. The Supreme Court said we're not going to take up this case because there are other prior cases coming up the legal pipeline. And to do this would be superfluous. There's other cases that are in front of us before this.
Right. The process to get to the Supreme Court is a lengthy and expensive process.
Yes. So, Deerfield modeled their assault weapons ban off the Highland Park one, saying, well, they defended it successfully. And, I got in touch with ISRA, and what we were really coming at it from was not a Second Amendment constitutional grounds, but saying the way in which they enacted this ordinance or amended this ordinance violated state procedures in terms of preemption and in terms of the technical ways in which they went about creating this ban.
Right.
Which was basically they took the old assault weapons, safe storage and transportation, and they struck out all of the regulatory and active language and substituted new language in. The only language that they kept was the penalties. Well, they actually increased the penalties. So it was,
that would be.
It was going to be $1,000 per day per instance. So if I had 5 ARs in my safe and I was caught, and it was going to be retroactive to back to when the ordinance was passed. So a year goes by, something happens, they find out that I've got 5 ARs in my safe. I could be liable for $5,000 per day
for a year.
Which is ridiculous. Like, and it's a misdemeanor. It's a local ordinance. You can't make a felony local ordinance, right?
Wow.
But they struck out all of that. They just kept the definitions. They modified the definitions a little bit, and they kept the penalties and modified that. But all of the inactive language, they struck out. They got rid of. Mm-hmm. So they basically treated it like a shell, pulled all the guts out of it, put new guts in, and said, we amended it. And we're like, no, you created a new ordinance. You created a new rule.
This is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And I brought that up in a meeting, in the last meeting, and they're like, well, we have a legal opinion that says we're good to do this. And I'm like, yeah, well, there's some legal opinion people out there that are saying no. You might want to think about this. They passed it on a Monday, and we filed suit on Thursday.
Wow.
And in the meantime, NRA jumped in with a local organization called Guns Save Lives and did their own lawsuit. They actually announced a lawsuit that didn't exist.
Guns Save Lives, isn't that
John Bachman.
Okay, John Bachman. I was thinking.
Yeah, downstate,
gotcha.
Illinois.
Okay.
So they, NRA jumped out ahead of it and announced a lawsuit and kind of stole a little bit of our thunder.
I hate saying I like to do that, but
I like the NRA. I'm a lifetime member.
Yep, same here. It's nice to be together.
Yep. So we had 2 separate lawsuits. I was the one that came out publicly. The other defendant, Mr. Wambacher, never really got out in front of it and talked about things. He was just kind of a presence for the lawsuit itself. So we filed suit. Our lawsuit was a 1-count lawsuit saying, hey, you can't do this. It violated the state preemption laws. The NRA Gun Save Lives suit had 4 or 5 counts. They invoked the Wildlife Act. There were a couple other things. And Judge Baronis kicked a bunch of that stuff back. And so in March of 2019, March or April, initially we got a preliminary injunction. So right before it was the ordinance was supposed to be enacted, Judge Ray Baronis said, there's enough here. We found enough to say, we think this is, there's some hinkiness here and the plaintiffs have a case. We're going to put a preliminary injunction in place. So it literally came down to like hour 23.
Oh my God.
It was only a couple of days before we're supposed to take effect. And the judge was like, nope, we're going to injunct this thing. We need to give it time to sort out. So I never had to get rid of anything. It was really nice. Cool. I was ready to. My friends at North Shore Sports Club in Lake Forest had been in contact with me, and they said publicly, anybody that's affected by this, we're going to offer free storage in our gun store, in our gun safes for anybody that's effective. Local community partners.
It's ridiculous to me that you could still have this, but not have it in your town.
Yeah, well, and because they couldn't outright ban. They couldn't outright ban ownership. All they could do was affect possession within the material limits of Deerfield, because that would have been a whole other tweaky thing that they would have had to deal with.
In Massachusetts, early 2000s, I think. I could be wrong on the years, but that was something that this state wanted to do. They wanted to say, well, every town can come up with their own laws. So if you're driving down Route 9, in this town you can carry, in this town you can't carry, in this one it's got to be unloaded, locked in the trunk, and you can't keep up with that stuff.
Well, and that was the whole point behind Illinois, the preemption, saying, we can't have a patchwork of laws. And one of the smart things that Illinois did do was say, no matter what the laws were on the books of your particular town, the Concealed Carry Act took priority in saying, it took precedence in saying, if you have a concealed carry license, it doesn't matter what your laws are, the concealed carry license is going to allow you safe passage throughout the entire state of Illinois.
Right. That would be common sense.
Yeah, because if I'm from downstate Illinois, or if I'm from upstate Illinois, and I go down to, Cairo or Monroe or something like that, and they have a different thing, how am I supposed to know what those laws are?
Exactly.
It's almost, but not quite, entrapment. So we filed suit, and it lasted about a year-ish. We got the preliminary injunction, and then we came down, Judge Baronis finally came down and said, you know what, this looks to be a violation of preemption statutes. We got our permanent injunction in the spring of last year. There's been a couple of legal maneuverings, but we won at that point, and the village is appealing. They got help from the Brady Center, legal help, pro bono, which, as much as a certain political party wants to talk about, private money in government sectors.
Taking Bloomberg money's private money, right?
Dude, I find it really interesting that a private organization, a public entity, can take money from a private organization to defend themselves against a lawsuit, or use lawyers in that sense. Mm-hmm. There's something about that bugs me hard.
I think it's interesting that in 2016, everybody was like, "Ooh, the NRA spent $30 million on Trump's election," and
which it didn't, but
right. But Bloomberg himself spent more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one guy spends more than 5 million people, and you're going to say it's not fair?
Well, I mean, Bloomberg's come out this year already and said, he's basically self-financing his run for president. Whatever.
Okay, great.
Yeah, cool beans, dude.
Rock on. God bless you. You got the money. I mean, good for him. He's got the money, but it's not getting him anywhere.
Yeah.
He had, 45 people show up at a rally recently? 45.
Yeah.
Oops, that's not us.
Nope. Yeah, so we got our permanent injunction. We won, or as I like to say, quoting the fantastic movie Ghostbusters, we came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was really funny. I had to maintain a very low social media profile during the lawsuit. And once we got the injunction, I called up Dave Segali, who is our lawyer for the ISRA, and I was like, so we're good, right? Permanent injunctions in place. We're good to go. I can get back online and kind of talk about this, right? And he's like, yeah, to a certain extent, just don't. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I didn't publicize it, but one of the first things I did driving home from work, I stopped in front of Village Hall, grabbed a Magpul D-Mag 60 for my AR, and took a selfie in front of the Village Hall of Deerfield sign, holding up a D-Mag 60 and just being like, yeah.
Oh my God. Dude, Massachusetts is so ridiculous. Any high cap mags after 94 are illegal to have. So honestly, I'm hoping while I'm here that I can find some gun store that's got some old stock, some old pre-94 mags for cheap.
They don't date them.
Right.
It's like the whole California thing. What do we call it? Like Gunmageddon, or not Gunmageddon, Freedom Week.
Oh, right,
California.
Freedom Week in California last year, yeah.
Which is basically, when the judge was like, oh yeah, this is unenforceable, and they put the injunction on for a week, and I don't know how many millions of mags were shipped. And my buddy Ike at Big Tex Outdoors, was shipping pallets of mags to people in California that week. And California's pretty much said, there's no way for us to know when people had this. So it's complete, any kind of mag capacity ban is completely unenforceable at this point in time.
Completely useless. All right, listen, we are almost back to where we need to be. I think this is our road. If you had
it'll be on that side.
No, because we got to go down 47th. We're supposed to turn right there.
Oh, we are?
Yeah, I took a turn.
Oh, I thought this was Cicero Avenue still.
No, this is Pulaski.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll have to turn around.
All right.
Sorry.
That's okay. This is why I'm the driver and they're riding shotgun.
Yeah.
That's all right, man. We're not going to be able to get over anything.
Whatever, masshole.
Oh, man!
Oh.
That hurts, dude. That hurts. I think it's interesting all the roads have safety zones. I don't see anything safe going on.
No.
Or anything unsafe going on, I guess. I don't know. I don't see anything serious going on. All right, we got a couple minutes left. If you had to talk to, and obviously you've had to do this, if you had to take a new person that was a little nervous and concerned about shooting and about having a gun, what would you take them out to the range and have them do, and how would you convince them to pursue getting a gun or at least go shooting? Like you said you work with people that are new to gun ownership. How do you take someone that's nervous and scared and get them comfortable? Like you're not shooting, you're like, hey, here's a brand new to guns, you never shot a gun. Here's the 357.
Right. No, a lot of it is training. A lot of it is knowing how to be.
Which road do we take?
This one.
Okay.
Either one will get you back to Cicero.
Yeah.
A lot of it is just knowing how to talk to people and having a conversation. Like before I'll ever take a new person out shooting, I will talk through what their concerns are. I will talk through safety, how I view safety, how I manipulate firearms, my definition of safe handling practices, all that good stuff. And I want to make sure that somebody's completely comfortable. I have a couple of 22 pistols. If necessary, I'll start them out on. Most of the time I start them out on a 9mm. Almost anybody can handle a 9mm.
Yeah.
And I find it's easier to start them a little bit on the bigger side than start them at a 22 and then have to get over flinching or reacting to the noise. Dry handling.
Doing a little dry fire or what?
Dry fire. Yeah, dry practice. Manipulating the firearm while it's not loaded. That's a big thing. It just talking through it with facts, logic, and keeping the emotion out of it, and figuring out what is their pain point and being able to speak to that.
I like that. That's good.
And I'm never going to try and convince somebody of something. I will talk to people, but I don't believe in being a crusader to try and convince somebody to shoot. I will take somebody out and shoot if they have it. But if they decide at the end of the day, this is not for me, I'm not going to try and tell them any different.
Yeah.
Tom Gibbons, one of the instructors in the community that I respect a lot, told a story about somebody who came out and spent a lot of money on a class. And at the end of the day, they were shooting a silhouette target that had a human face on it, and that person just couldn't deal with the idea of shooting a person.
Right.
And at the end of the class, the person walked away and said, you know what, I'm never going to be able to carry a gun. I can't do that. And Tom said, you know what, there's no shame in that. That person found out something about themselves and made a decision that they are right within themselves.
Yeah.
And you can't find fault in that. You can't bag on that person for doing that.
Absolutely. I think it's kind of interesting that sometimes the us pro gun guys like to, say if you carry Israeli style, you carry that around in the chamber, then it's stupid and foolish and whatever.
It is stupid and foolish.
I hear you, but I used to carry an unloaded gun when it was new to me, because I'm like, ooh, this is weird. It's I don't want to say you're dipping your toe into it, but you got to get to your different levels of comfort. And then, of course, after a couple months of being, okay, so the gun's on me and the ammo's in my pocket, nothing bad happened. Let's put the ammo in the gun, and then, got through that little hump.
I will counter that with training. Good quality instruction where we can address people's fears and find those pain points. That's the big thing. I want to start people off with habits and habits for success, best practices for success. We got to, you and I take training, we throw money. I take probably 5 to 8 training courses a year. I spend 120, 130 hours a year paying people to teach me how to get better. The majority of people don't do that. Right. So if I'm starting somebody off and I know that the unfortunate piece of it is the last class, the first and last class they're ever going to take is their concealed carry class, I need to give them strategies for success.
Right.
And in my personal opinion, carrying without a round in the chamber is not a strategy for success. So I'm going to try and combat that and make sure people understand that, because I can show empirical proof through video and photos and case studies that this is how you're going to lose.
Right. Absolutely. I'm with you.
So I like to counter that stuff. My big thing right now, I'm on a kick of force on force, decision-based and scenario training.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I have a training partner that I do a little bit of business with as an instructor, and we have developed an intro to force on force class for untrained people, and it's called So You Think You Can Carry.
That's awesome. Jeez, I wish this guy would let me know what the hell he's doing.
It is a 6-hour course where we have designed scenarios. I think he's going to back up right to that dock.
Oy, oy, oy. He's in a tequila truck, or tequila van, so I don't know if he's been partaking before he started driving.
I would hope not.
I would hope not.
But I'm big on decision-based training. I think a lot, and this will be an interesting conversation that we can have together. Hey, Mr. Brinks Armored Truck Guy. Let's go get paid.
Right. Get that gun in?
Yeah, no. I would never suggest illegal acts. For a long time, our whole training model has always been, we're going to get people familiar, we're going to develop the skills, we're going to get them to a skill mastery set, and then we're going to put them in decision-based training.
Mm-hmm.
Force-on-force, simunition, UTM type stuff. And looking around at the average skill level of the average shooter right now, I see that most people don't know how to approach a force situation or decision-making situation with a gun. And it's a very complex thing. I've seen it time and time again where I can take somebody who's used to shooting in a stall, shooting at a target, who's very good, and I put an airsoft gun or a less lethal gun in their hand, and then I force them to solve problems with it, and it's like we're back to being a baby again.
Wow.
Because now you're having to make you've got to think. So it's just like anything else. It's like driving a car, right? We always think about what we do when we have a kid, or when we learned to drive a car. We had to think about the processes of how to drive the car, and everything was very stressful. But then you get comfortable with it. Shooting's the same way. We've got to learn how to make decisions while we have a gun on us, or while we potentially have a gun in our hand. It's not just about the skill. So You Think You Can Carry is aimed at the beginner to intermediate shooter who's never had the exposure to making a decision with a gun in their hand. So we set up very carefully tailored scenarios, and we use airsoft. So you're shooting little 6mm pellets at each other. And I have a student and I have instructors and role players, and we set a scenario up to force a person to make decisions with a firearm. Whether they're going to draw, whether they're going to shoot, if they are, what's about telling them how to get themselves in the best position to win that gunfight. Teaching people that just because we have a gun doesn't mean that it's always the tool that we have to use. And any good and a lot of the good force on force classes that I've taken, there will be that scenario towards the middle or the end of the day where using the gun probably isn't the solution, and the instructor does that to make a point and say, all day long I've given you a hammer and I've given you nails and you've been hammering nails. Well, the hammer isn't your only tool. Like verbals, being able to talk to people.
Right. That's cool.
So I've talked to a lot of instructors in the industry. My buddy Kevin, we run a company together called Clarion Concepts out of Peoria. We're actually doing a So You Think You Can Carry February 1st here in the Chicago suburbs up north, and then we've got a couple in February and March down in Pekin, which is near Peoria. So we're trying this out, and we're trying to get people interested in taking more training, and realize what we really want them to realize is we want them to take the course and realize I'm not as good as I think I am, and I need to go out and I need to get instruction, and I need to learn more, and I need to be better.
That's cool.
Our course is $150 for 6 hours. We supply everything.
Wow, that's a bargain.
Yeah, we wanted to make a low barrier cost to entry. Most force on force classes you're looking, the last 2 that I've taken were $500 courses that spanned a weekend. Not everybody's going to have that ability and time to be able to take a weekend off and go train and do that stuff. So we want to get people to really to see that. And I think we're on the leading edge of a movement to really redefine the training paradigm and get decision-based training and scenario-based training into people's training curriculum a lot earlier than traditionally we have been.
Very cool, man.
I would rather have a smart person that knows how to think with a gun that might not be the best shot in the world than the best shot in the world that's never had to solve a problem with a gun in their hand before, because they're going to lock up. And if you encounter a problem and you've never encountered that problem before, you have to think your way through that problem.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about a violent encounter, a force situation, you don't have time to think your way through that problem. So you have to be able to have a knowledge base and an experience bank that you can draw on that says, I've not been in this particular situation before, but here's a guy with a gun and he's over here, and I've been in this situation before in a Sims class, and okay, I can adapt this. And no, our brain draws upon that bank of knowledge and experience in stress situations. So having that, you don't have to solve that problem from the very beginning. I want real life. I want people to be able to win a real life situation a lot easier.
That sounds really cool. It sounds like a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. Force on Force is great. I've taken 100 hours this year of Force on Force through different instructors.
And it's only the 16th.
Well, last year, 2019. Last year, 2019, I did 108 or 116 hours of Force on Force where I was a student.
That's cool, man.
Because I'm learning from people who are doing it, and learning how to be a better teacher, better instructor. So if there's one message I can get out there to the armed populace or people that are interested in guns, go take a Force on Force class. You walk away with some really nifty welts. We call them the bees because they sting.
Gotcha.
My wife actually was a role player for us in the very first So You Think You Can Carry class. And through no fault of our own, we had an equipment malfunction or a gear malfunction where my wife decided not to wear a baseball cap. And we put her in as an active shooter, and she took a round, literally an airsoft pellet, right to the forehead. So we have goggles, we have masks and everything to protect the important stuff.
Right.
But she took a literal 6mm plastic BB right to the center of the forehead. It was beautiful. It was great because I saw it happen, and our students solved the problem and stuff. And my wife goes down, and we look, and I'm like, "Yep, she just got winged in the forehead. She just got center punched. Oh boy, this is going to be fun."
It's a long car ride home.
Yeah. I mean, we only lived 15 minutes from where we were hosting the course, and it was a long car ride home.
Oh my God. Too funny.
But yeah, so, it's a cool concept, and I want people to think about going out there and being smart. I want to train people, and I want people to be trained so that if I'm at the local Starbucks, McDonald's, whatever, and something actually does happen, I can look around and I can be like, oh, there's Charlie. I've taken a class with Charlie before. I don't need to worry about Charlie. Charlie's going to know, oh, hey, there's Dan. I'm going to let Dan solve this problem.
I'm heading out.
Charlie's like, I'm booking out. Dan, you solve this. But, it's amazing that we don't have people getting shot. Well, we do have first responders getting shot by cops a lot.
The thing in Florida is a great example where they shot up the UPS truck.
Yes. That was a large scale training command failure.
Oh man, totally.
But then we've got people that win. The church shooter in Texas,
Church shooter,
one shot with a SIG 357, a SIG P229 and 357 SIG. Drilled that guy at about 34 feet, center punched him right in the T-box, right in the ocular cavity. And that's what I want to teach people to be able to do is deal with those situations. And that guy had the training and he had the experience to know how and when to react. Now, don't get me wrong. There were failures in that situation. I think that church could have contained that guy away from the congregation. I think, there's always lessons to learn. And I think this is incredible. If you guys have not seen that video, you need to watch the video from start to end, because it's the first real active shooter that we've had full video on from start to finish of the incident. Great training tool. It unfortunately sucks because there were 2 people that got killed right at the beginning of it, but there's lessons to be learned from those.
Yeah.
John Correa at Active Self-Protection.
He did a great video.
He did a great video.
Bam, day of.
And he was trying to hold off, but everybody was trying to ask for him.
He's got the 72-hour deal.
Yeah, he's got a 72-hour deal, but everybody was talking about he's fine. Like, let's break this down.
Right.
He's a great resource. I love that guy. Fantastic dude in the community. Really believes in what he's doing.
Cool.
But yeah, so.
Awesome. All right, listen, we need to wrap it up.
Yep.
Where can people find you and your stuff and all the things that you do?
If you are in the Central Illinois or Chicagoland area, you can find us at Clarion Concepts, Clarion, C-L-A-R-I-O-N Concepts. On Facebook, we have a website that we're going to get redone. My training partner / business partner is Kevin Maletti. He's our lead instructor. He's based out of Peoria. I'm up here. You can find me a little bit on Facebook. I have a public page that I'm about to take down because it's lame and I don't pay attention enough to it. You can also find me running around training groups or classes. Get out there and train. Take classes from people like Steve Fisher, Aaron Cowan of Sage Dynamics, Centrifuge Training, Will Petty, Jeff Gonzalez, Trident Concepts. There's a lot of guys out there in the training community that really know how to teach people to shoot and do well, get better. Alliance Police Department, Alliance Police Training Facility in Alliance, Ohio. They have a live fire shoot house. You can go out and do CQB stuff, learn how to navigate structures with a gun.
Wow, that's cool.
It's one of the few places that regular people can actually do that kind of thing. So Alliance Police Training Facility, Joe Wire and the boys out at Alliance run a fantastic house, and they have open enrollment classes with top level instructors that come in each year. It's a great place to get a training, and they are dear friends of mine. If you're down south, Tuscaloosa Sheriff's Office in Alabama, my boy Chase Jenkins of Centrifuge does a lot of good stuff down there. Tom Gibbons, Range Master. I'm going to try and get a couple of courses in with him this year.
Cool.
He's all over the place. But you can find me around, there's a group on the internet called Primary and Secondary. I pop in there from time to time to talk about training and tactics and guns and shooting and that kind of stuff.
Cool. We'll put links to all this stuff.
Yeah, I'll make sure people know. That's just my thing, though, is go out and get training from a bunch of different people.
Very cool. All right, cool.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Listen, thank
Charlie.
you so much.
Thank you
so much. You need to check out the Self-Defense Radio Network, SDRN.US.
Yep.
That is all of your pro-freedom podcasts in one place. You need to check out the Second Amendment Foundation. These guys are great. Please like and share and subscribe to all the Writing Shotgun with Charlie. You can watch them on YouTube. You can watch them on Gunstreamer. You can listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and on iHeartRadio. And we are trying to get the Stagecoach across America. So sharing all this stuff is the easiest thing you can do to do that. Dan, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah.
This has been a lot of fun. We're going to go outside, get a selfie in front of the, what do you call it here? Starbucks? Starbies? Starbucks?
Coffee place.
Coffee.
The Seattle type coffee place.
Right. You're not supposed to carry there.
Nah, they don't care. You just don't be a douche and carry openly.
There we go. I'm not an open carry guy, and every time I go to Starbucks, I tell people I'm at Starbucks and that it's not a gun-free zone when I'm there.
Yeah, it's not.
So.
Yeah, my wife was a Starbucks manager for a while when that whole thing went down because some idiots in Texas walked into a Starbucks with rifles. We are our own worst enemy. If you're going to do things, people, please be productive. Don't be counterproductive. We need good people out there not scaring people. Don't be a Second Amendment auditor. Don't go out and carry rifles in places and scare people because that's just dumb. That's my personal opinion. That Charlie, these views do not reflect
the host
anything.
of the show.
Yes, these views are entirely Dan Easterday's views.
Oh, very cool. All right, listen, we'll see you guys. Thank you very much.
Not a problem, man.
We'll talk to you guys soon.